Barcelona vs Elche match ended with 3-0 win for Barcelona. Talking about the formation of both the teams, Barcelona were playing in 4-3-3 formation and Elche were playing in 5-4-1 formation. In open play, Barcelona were building the game in back three. Frankie de Jong was dropping in from midfield and slotting in between the two centre backs. In open play, Elche were pressing with sole man, so Elche's frontman was not able to do much because of being 3 vs 2 down. Elche's frontmen were positioned central and Barca's centre back were wide split, so Barca's centre backs carrying the ball easily from the half space zone and keeping the frontman out of game. In open play, Elche were defending in the narrow back five. Frank Kessie was always pushing high and playing between centre back and full back. Elche's centre back and full back were engaged with Frank Kessie as Frank Kessie joined Barca's front line. Frank Kessie's position was mostly in the half space when Barca was in transition. With Frank Kessie and Depay in half space, Elche's full backs were forcing narrow defending. On the other hand, Pedri was playing as a number 10 in transition. When Barca were in transition, Pedri was always moving between the line horizontally behind Barca's front line. Elche's midfield was being penetrated as Elche's midfield was split and Pedri was receiving the ball between the line. Because Elche was defending in the narrow back five, the channels were completely open for Barca. When Pedri was receiving the ball, Dembele, who was operating high and wide throughout the game, he had plenty of space in the channels to attack. As we discussed, Elche's fullback was being distracted by Frank Kessie's run, so Dembele was free in the wide zone and he went down the line to cross into the box. There were separate mechanisms on the left hand side and right hand side of the Barca. Barca's left back Balde was giving more attacking contribution than right back Kunde. If I am not wrong, he had 2 assists. Elche's compact narrow back five opened up wide zone for Barca. Barca were playing diagonal balls when Barca were having trouble building the game centrally because of Elche's narrow defending. Barca's left back, who was less fullback and more winger, he was free on the flank to receive the big diagonal ball. As we discussed, the fullback of Elche were narrow, so naturally space was being created for Balde. Elche's midfield was dropping deep in open play. There was no pressure on Frankie de Jong as Elche dropped deep from midfield, so he was carrying the ball with ease. When Frankie de Jong did not have centrally passing options available, Depay was receiving the ball by dropping in the half space. Elche's fullback was dragging on Depay as Depay dropped in, and Barca's left back was ready to exploit the wide zone because Balde's pace was high and he was easily going behind the defense. In open play, Frank Kessie and Depay were occupying the half space, standing side by side to defensive line of Elche. With Depay and Frank Kessie side by side with Elche's defense was getting pulled when Depay and Frank Kessie were trying to get behind the defense. Because Depay and Frank Kessie were tied with Elche's defense, so Lewandowski could have received the ball between the line by dropping in. Because now Lewandowski was free between the line, so Elche's centre back will have to close down Leva. Pedri, who was in the number 10 role, dragged the centre back and Lewandowski dragged another centre back. So Elche's 2 centre back out of position and Elche's defense was unbalanced. Elche's centre back lose his marker Lewandowski and made a tackle from behind. It was clear red card because it was the clear definition of goal scoring opportunity. Now let's talk about Elche's open play and final third. You can see this at Elche's narrow 4-4-1 structure. In open play, Elche were leaving the wide zone open as Elche's midfield and defense were narrow and Barca were taking full advantage of it. There were 2 players in the wide zone on the both side of Barca. On the near side, Dembele and right back Kunde, and the far side, Depay and left back Balde. If diagonal ball were played, then winger Dembele straight 2 vs 0 in the wide zone until Elche's wide press did not cover, and this was Elche's biggest weakness. So because of that, Elche had to shift to the 5-3-1 formation after getting the red card to cover the wide zone. After Elche's defender got the red card, the trouble for Elche got worse. After receiving the red card, Elche had to put a player in defense from midfield and Elche's mid 4 became mid 3. If Elche's midfield was of 4 players, then Elche's 2 wide players could cover the half space zone and 2 players could cover the central zone. But after the red card, Elche's midfield became 3 players. On the other hand, it was bit of interesting tactics. Lewandowski and midfielder Frank Kessie were switching position. With Frank Kessie in the center, Frank Kessie was holding the Elche's centre back and Dembele was taking Elche's fullback. So with Elche's centre back on the Frank Kessie and fullback on the Dembele, space was being created between the 2 defenders for the striker. And when the Lewandowski was receiving the ball, he was free and he had 2 options centrally.